Welcome everyone to Couch Potato Diary as we try to make sense of whatever that was as Super Bowl 59 has wrapped up. This is your Super Bowl instant reaction. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for hanging out today. Couch Potato Diary, the podcast, always presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca. We got the Cannons hat, we got the Calgary sweater in the background, and a lot of great stuff. It is sweater weather out here in Calgary. Oh my God. Look, we broke this game down for a couple of weeks, and we have been breaking this season down all season. That was unexpected. And as it's happening, it shouldn't have been. But no part of us thought coming into that, oh yeah, this is going to be a blowout game. That never entered anyone's thought process at all, that this was going to be just a sound and thorough ass kicking right from the word go. And instead it was the Eagles just saying, hey, they not like us, and absolutely annihilating them. Just all of it is so surprising. And like I said, it shouldn't have been. And we're going to break it all down here as we go on. As always, if you want to share your thoughts on the game, the chat is where you can do that as we try to make sense of Super Bowl 59. So I keep saying this shouldn't have been as surprising as it was, because we were saying coming in, the Eagles have the most complete team, probably in the NFL, and now they got the hardware to prove it. But the defense, that pass rush is incredible. They have an excellent group of linebackers, and their secondary is phenomenal. The only thing that was holding us back is the thought that, well, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and I just picked against him in the AFC Championship game, and that was not fun. So I wasn't going to do that again. And out he came, and shut down he was, as the Eagles just completely took him out of their game plan. And again, it was such a systematic beatdown in a way that I was not anticipating. Toxic stream at 10:30. Yeah, look, Super Bowls happen. That's when you got to go. And we had a Super Bowl party. It wasn't at our house. So we drove back from the Super Bowl party, got everything ready. It's like, I need to talk about this game right now. That's what the instant reactions are for. Because yeah, I had to look. Very little of this podcast is probably going to make a whole lot of sense tonight. This is all just stream of conscious. What the hell did we just watch? But what we saw was a systematic defeat of the Kansas City Chiefs in a way that we just haven't really seen before. The last time it was this thorough was the last time they lost the Super Bowl, and that was because both their tackles were hurt. This was basically the Chiefs in their highest form that they could be, given how their roster is. And they got whooped on for 4 quarters. It wasn't close. They couldn't get anything going. The offensive line was dominated by the Eagles pass rush. And that was one of our keys to the game, was that the Eagles were going to have to get pressure rushing forward. And they didn't blitz once in the first half, and they still had like a 70% pressure rate. And I'm only being hyperbolic a little bit. That's how nuts that defense was, is that it was a constant barrage. And credit to the secondary as well for the Eagles, because they were able to make sure that no one was getting open. Mahomes had no time at all, and that really limited them with what they were able to do. So just a full, complete, dominant effort from the Eagles in every aspect, really of football, but specifically on the defense. It starts again, as we've talked about. Vic Fangio was excellent. The zone defense that he had, there was just nowhere for them to get anything. And I think they knew that there wasn't anyone who was going to be getting open for Kansas City to give Mahomes any of that time that he normally has to be able to pick teams apart. And we said it before, if you blitz him, you better get to him, because he is so good against the blitz. And so they didn't blitz him. They only had to bring 4 because the secondary did such an amazing job of locking everybody down. A couple key moments in this game. It already felt like it was getting out of hand, but that Hopkins drop, not to put it on him, this loss does not come down to 1 or 2 plays, but just a couple ones that maybe swing things a little bit. That Hopkins drop right at the end of the first half. Like it is not a tight shot on him. And he's the only one on that side of the field. At least they get something out of that, move things down, get some points, and hey, we're not getting shut out while we're listening to Kendrick Lamar ether Drake on the Super Bowl halftime show in front of 100 million people. So there's at least a little bit of that they can take, and then that drop, and it just kills any bit of momentum they could have possibly thought about having, just completely goes out the window with that drop. And then a big shot from the Eagles really does seal this one away. Looking at the Eagles on the offensive side of things, I was so impressed with how they were able to get the ball down the field without Saquon Barkley. Barkley was a non-factor in this game. And we said the job of the Chiefs is going to be to take Barkley away and force Jalen Hurts to beat them. And quite frankly, they did that. And Jalen Hurts was like, all right, say less, man. And he beat that ass for 4 quarters. I don't think it answers all of the questions, and I don't think in the next little while he's going to get as much of the credit for this Super Bowl win because of just how dominant this entire team was and how much I think the story of this game was the defense. But Hurts, I think, does level up in this. He was called upon to win this game for his team, and he won this game for his team. Again, I would suggest that probably more of that has to do with the defense, but still, he was there, and he came up with big pass after big pass, and just at no point did it seem like this moment was too big for him in any sense. So, full marks to Jalen Hurts, and then all the receivers stepping up, Brown making a big play, Smith making a couple big plays. Goddard wasn't as much of a factor in this one as we thought. Sorry. Swig of water for the working man. Sorry, Goddard wasn't as much of a factor as we thought he was going to be. All of it just so surprising. But again, credit to Jalen Hurts for what they were able to do. And credit that offensive line. Spagnuolo was bringing blitzes from everywhere. And they just couldn't get to Hurts. He had no time in there at all. And that was, to me, that was probably the biggest surprise of this game. Obviously, Mahomes looking as ordinary as he did was a surprise in a gigantic way. But to have this Chiefs defense that was so dominant this season just get manhandled in that way. It's the most points they've given up all season by a ton. To just see them get just beat up in that way was remarkable. And again, you would see Spagnuolo would bring pressure. It's all right, here it comes. And Hurts has a clean pocket and he has time. And it's like, how are they doing that? Like, did Lane Johnson grow 3 arms here and just swallow up this pass rush? It was an unbelievable job. And I think a job that they should get a little bit more credit for than I think they got on a broadcast tonight that was a little not great, but that was, they were another one of the stars of the show. And look, I mean, there were no passengers on this night for the Eagles. They completely dominated this game from start to finish. They were the more prepared team. They executed phenomenally. Whenever they had any opportunity to keep the foot on the gas, they rode with it. And to talk about like momentum and all that stuff, I don't know how you can say momentum doesn't exist and watch that football game and see the Eagles as it just builds and builds and builds, and the Chiefs as it's just getting dragged out of them and they can't get anything to go. It was, unbelievable is just the only way I can describe it. None of that, even when talking about how great the Eagles can be, it's still Mahomes is going to get his, Kelsey's going to get his on down the line. So it's not the declaration of dominance from Saquon Barkley, the exclamation point of a game, but it is, he was still the best player on a Super Bowl team this year. And a huge credit to him for getting them there, but just an entire team effort from the Philadelphia Eagles. In terms of now what is next, we're going to have a lot more on that on Couch Potato Diary or here, twitch.tv/primetimepk. As always, you can get these episodes early and live here on Twitch, and then the podcasts go out wherever they may head out, including Spotify. But going to have a lot more on off-season things and stuff like that. There's going to be a lot of people that, Brady never lost like that in a Super Bowl, blah, 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 blah. I don't think this is overly damaging to Kansas City legacies or anything like that. They were going for history. This is their third straight Super Bowl appearance. That they're an incredible football team. I do think that this shows that there are holes and that Mahomes, against the elite of the elite of the elite, can't overcome them. And so you do need to figure out who the number one receiver is, because you cannot just rely on Travis Kelce being able to get it done for 3 weeks. And like that, this was the time of year that he is saving it up for. And now it's just a bad season for him. And I don't think it's the end for Travis Kelce. And again, I don't think, legacy wise, I don't think this impacts any of them. It probably, the one that it does probably the most is Andy Reid slowing that conversation down. But those weren't happening a ton, I don't feel like, anyway. But I think that this shows for Kansas City that the offensive line needs to be addressed. That is first and foremost. That needs to happen. And then I do think you need to get a number one guy out there. Chatting with people at the Super Bowl party that I was at tonight, for Calgary people, you will know the name, Will Nault. We were talking about what the Chiefs could do, and Chris Godwin's name comes up as he's a free agent now, coming off of ACL surgery. But if that guy is close to whatever he was, that is a scary option that they could have. And they have tried to go kind of bargain hunting before, with Nuke Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, those guys. I do wonder if a Cooper Kupp finds his way to Kansas City. I would be surprised if a trade happens with him and the Rams. I think that that's probably going to end up being just a player who gets cut and gets to sign somewhere, and then sign for minimal money because he's getting paid by the Rams. So I would think Kansas City gets in on that one. Deebo Samuel's name is coming up a lot. I think having him in an Andy Reid offense would be very intriguing. Now, I do think that is a player that can get traded, but I think that that's kind of what we're talking about here right now. The one thing, and I was already planning on cautioning people against it, and now I'm kind of going in that direction anyway. They do lose Rashee Rice 3 weeks in, and this is zero excuse making that they've missed him all season long. But in terms of like, okay, this needs to be addressed, I still think there is a very real world where he's that guy. And so they maybe already have that dude on the roster. He just got hurt very early on. So that is something. But the offensive line absolutely has to be addressed. That was the key in this game, is that they just could not protect Patrick Mahomes. They lost. I've said it about both sides, so I may as well just lump it all into one. The key in this game was the trenches battle, right? Like, it was the battle in the offensive line. Kansas City lost the battle on the line on both sides, on offense and defense. They couldn't get anything to Jalen Hurts, and they couldn't keep anything off of Patrick Mahomes, and all of that equals a very long night for the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, going to have a lot more thoughts on this as the week rolls along, but just a couple more. The broadcast tonight I thought was quite bad. Burkhardt's awesome. We know this, but Tom Brady, like, it got better at times this year. This was not one of those games. I didn't feel like we learned a whole lot from the 7-time Super Bowl champion and owner of my favorite team, the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think we got a whole lot from him in this one. That score bug was atrocious. It looked like something we would make in Canva and put on here as like we don't have the rights to any of these things, so I'm just going to put a thing on the screen that shows you how this football game ended up. That's what it looked like. Yeah, it's always weird when, and it's fun, right? Like, you have a new graphic for the Super Bowl. And I've said that I think other leagues, that specifically the National Hockey League, right? Like, it's every broadcast looks the same. And so when you get to the playoffs, it's like, well, this just looks like a regular season game. And a lot of times, if it's a Canadian team, I got the same fucking play-by-play guy too. But with the Super Bowl, it is weird that the biggest audience you'll have over the next 4 years is the one that we're just testing out what our new scoreboard and what our new graphic system is like. It is weird, but I do like that you at least, it's different. It looks different from how the rest of the season looks. But it was a swing and a miss on that. The halftime show, they're always going to be split. I feel like this was one where if you liked Kendrick Lamar, you liked the halftime show. If you didn't like Kendrick Lamar, you probably didn't like the halftime show. That's what a lot of these are. I like Kendrick Lamar. I thought the halftime show was great. I couldn't believe that he said, I couldn't believe that he said Drake's name and then had 80,000 people at the Super Bowl yell A minor. That was Not on my bingo card. And look, you knew the song was going to happen. I thought it was going to be let the crowd sing that part. But he's like, nope. He said it. He had the grin on his face. All of it. That was, it was great. But yeah, like it's not why I remember when the Super Bowl was about football. All right, but most of it is. And if you really, really want that extra football analysis, NFL Network, I know for a fact NFL Network was commercial free during the halftime show. So you could fill your boots with Daniel Jeremiah breakdowns of that Super Bowl if you really desperately wanted extra football in a 5-hour broadcast where 20 minutes of it was a Kendrick Lamar concert. But the NFL, blah, blah, blah. Like, look, if you like Kendrick Lamar, you thought it was awesome. If you didn't like Kendrick Lamar, you probably hated it. I think that obviously there are differences on both of those sides. You're not going to catch everyone in that wide of a net, but I feel like I kind of got the Venn diagram hit on there. And it's the same every year. I'm not a huge Maroon 5 fan, so I didn't think their Super Bowl halftime show was awesome. Katy Perry, not a whole lot there for me. And so, didn't like her halftime show. Prince, love his music. Thought the halftime show was great. The Dr. Dre Snoop Dogg, love all of their songs. Thought that halftime show was great. That's kind of what it is. Also, if you watched Red Zone for more than 5 minutes this year, that halftime show probably ain't for you. You know, they've got you with the football thing. So all of the it's the halftime blah 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 blah. I'm watching the football. It's awesome that we get an awesome concert with it. But if that concert sucked, it was 20 minutes. Big whoop. I just feel like the overreacting to the concerts at the halftime show is always just exhausting. And it always has to be so performative, right? This is the worst halftime show ever. It's like, really? Super Bowl I was a marching band, but this was worse than 10 marching band people in 1965 or whenever the hell. That really. The Black Eyed Peas existed at the Super Bowl. Stop it. But it always had, this is either the best or the worst that has ever happened. It's neither of them. I don't think if you have on YouTube or anywhere a list of the top 10 Super Bowl halftime shows in the history of the halftime, I don't think it changed. If you had a list of the worst Super Bowl halftime shows in the history of Super Bowl halftime, I don't think it changed. That's just kind of how it is. I thought it was a good halftime show. I didn't feel the need to go out on Twitter and tell everyone it was the best. I certainly didn't feel the need to go tell everyone it was the worst. Anyway, that discourse has always annoyed me. So hopefully it stops, but it probably won't. Either way, back to the football game. I thought this was a breakdown about football, not a halftime show. Overall thoughts on this game. Just stunned. So impressed with the Philadelphia Eagles. And like, I can be a bit of a football sicko. Again, they got me with the football game. I was thoroughly entertained. Not because of how close the game was, because it never was. But just with how dominant Philadelphia was. And how easily they were able to get anything they wanted offensively and stop anything they wanted defensively against that team. I was so impressed that I was entertained by an ass kicking with what the Eagles did. It is a complete team. It is a dominant team, and it is one that is probably going to be good again. Going into next season. And so we always do, how are they built? Looking at the championship team leading into the next season, so we get a nice reminder. And we always talk about, it's a copycat league. It's like, this is a tough one to copy. So here's the secret. All you have to do is have the most complete team in the National Football League. Have a very good quarterback. Have 2 to 3 very good pass catching options, the best running back in the backfield, the best offensive line, a defense that can pressure one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever exist just by getting 4, and a secondary that's going to lock everyone down. Once you lock all that in, you got it. So this is going to be a tough blueprint for people to follow. That's going to do it. Quicker stream here today because it's almost 11 o'clock Mountain Time and your boy needs to go to bed. So podcast going to be a little bit spotty over the next week for those in Calgary and those of you with the internet, which I'm assuming is most of you. I am going to be on Sportsnet 960 The Fan coming up tomorrow. I am 1 to 3. on Mountain Time on Sportsnet 960. Toxic asking about a stream tomorrow. There probably will be one at some point. Probably, honestly, a couple. So, but I don't know when. I know when you're streaming, it's supposed to have a set schedule. That ain't this week, guys. This is not a ploy to get you to follow me on social media, but this is a week to follow me on social media at Primetime Klein if you want to follow for when the streams are going live, because it's going to be a little all over the place, just trying to piece it all together. But we'll have a lot more reaction. There were fights on the weekend. We're going to talk about that, getting ready for the baseball season, 4 nations in hockey and all of that, and a whole lot more of just trying to, I need to sleep and get all my thoughts together to figure out how this all happened, because this was a truly shocking suit. Not that the Eagles won, because that was definitely in the range of possibilities, but win by way of ass kicking never really entered my mind. So thank you all so much for hanging out tonight. If you liked it, give me a follow. If you really liked it, give me a sub. Certainly not required. Always appreciated, but always appreciate you just hanging out and watching me rant about sports for a little bit. Toxic, a gem as always. Thank you so much for hanging out in the chat. Everyone else, have a great rest of your night, and we will all chat again very, very soon. And maybe this will make sense by then. Have a great night, everybody.